Welcome to Best Decision Ever, where we believe that life comes down to very few moments and decisions. So on this show, we are dedicated to highlighting the very people that have had the courage to overcome fear and make the decision to start their business, begin writing that blog, or just stand up for what they believe in. But on this show, we know that success is only one part of the story. So we take the time to dive into the challenges that our guests have had to endure to get to their current point of success in hopes that we can learn their mindsets, habits, and routines, enabling us to live inspired lives ourselves. For those of you who are new, I'm your host. My name is John. I think of myself as a performance enthusiast. I love sitting down with people who are at the top of their game so that I can learn lessons from them and apply it to my own life. And we have a very special guest today. He started out as an auto mechanic in an auto services shop. He found a gap in the market where he could provide both quality work and amazing customer service. He's built that out today to a high-performance auto service shop called the Racers Line. Without further ado, we have Neal Wiebmer. How are you?
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. I would love to dive into, first off, what is the Racers Line and what was the story behind starting it?
So a lot of people know the story now because of similar interactions or podcasts and stuff, but the actual story is I got fired from a job. I was working at a performance shop. I thought I was bringing a lot to this performance shop, and turns out I wasn't, according to the owner. Same day he fired me, it was about a year in, I think, working there. I drove to a friend's business. He was a small business owner that turned into, I believe, top Fortune 500 company, and said, hey, I got fired. I knew he had a shop at his house. It was actually in a converted horse barn. And I said, can I start a business in your barn? And he was like, okay. He was not that excited about it. He gave me a little bit of advice starting off and then said, yeah, go ahead, go for it. And it sort of turned into me working out of this guy's horse barn on the weekends initially. And it was a performance shop. It kind of started as that. I had worked previously for, God, I can't even remember now how many shops. I got laid off quite a few times. The automotive industry is interesting.
Okay.
I'd worked for a bunch of normal shops previously, but I was kind of I was young and into cars and modifying them. And I had previously worked at just like a mom and pop Subaru shop. And when I ran out of work, I was doing side work and modifying people's cars to pay for my own modifications. So that developed into this entire business of modifying people's cars. So.
Wow, that's a interesting backstory, because you had the courage to after getting fired immediately go, okay, how do I then do the next thing?
Yeah.
And how do I then create something out of this challenge? What was that experience like for you? Just more specifically, just from like a mental standpoint of getting fired and then going, okay, like Neal, I have to get it together and then go do the next thing. Like, yeah, what was that like for you?
To be honest, I think I told my wife this too. The reason I thought I could do it was because I was 22 or 21 and naive as hell. It was like, okay, I worked for guys that what I felt did not run a very good shop, but were successful in making money. I saw it as an opportunity of I could do the same stuff, no problem. If I can do it while treating customers really well, which is what I cared about, and was able to make some money, then it would be worth it. I wasn't after even, I didn't think I could work for myself for a long time. I just thought I could bring something, I could do this, on the side. It turned into full time, but that was kind of the plan. So the mindset after I got fired was some rage.
Fair.
Mostly because I thought, I really thought I was helping this other guy. It was and by the way, we're on good terms, the owner and I now. It was a performance shop based around Subarus, and I was bringing in the BRZ, the car I specialize in, and I was trying to bring over my customers that I had done side work for, and it was all over the Bay. To be fair, I didn't bring as many customers because I didn't like the way the shop was run, and I didn't voice that ever. It was not a reason I was fired. It was kind of, hey, this isn't working out. Okay, no problem. You're done. The rage was just because it was so unexpected that almost drove me immediately to be like, I'm going to start my own business. Screw this guy. It's like kind of a revenge thing or a motivation, I guess, of getting fired. It was, there's tools in place to immediately start your own business, especially, now you could just go online and do it. I had no idea what I was doing. I just thought I can start a shop. This is easy. And like the first month in, I had my unemployment claim denied by that previous boss, actually. So that was that was not great. And discouraging too. But a bunch of people canceled appointments at that shop and ended up coming to my horse barn. And that kind of kicked off my, okay, I have some loyal customers. I can maybe make this happen. An accounting glitch made me go out and get a real shop. And that was like the most ridiculous thing ever. If you want to hear about that.
Yeah, that would be would be cool. Can you dive into that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to sound kind of bad, but I didn't know how to take payment. I did, obviously. I knew there's credit card processing, whatever. I looked for the easiest way. Everyone will recommend like QuickBooks or something to use for accounting, and Square. Square was easy. It would integrate with QuickBooks. When I say horse barn, this was up a hill, a single lane road. I would meet people in a Costco parking lot, and they'd follow me up to the shop. It seemed like really sketchy, and people would always kind of, hey, there's some kid I'm meeting here that's going to modify and work on my car, but I have to meet him in a parking lot first. I would take payment via Square, and it would integrate, or technically it was supposed to, then put the transaction in QuickBooks or mark it off as like a transaction like your bank would. It doubled every transaction I did. So me, uneducated mechanic, doing my accounting, recording payments coming in from the bank, from Square into my bank, and it made it look like I was making more money. I think in the first month I did 16 grand in business or something, but that showed as 32,000. I'm like, oh shit, I did 32 grand my first. And look at the bank, whatever, and what I was spending, parts, that kind of stuff. It didn't add up, and I realized that I think about a month and a half in. But that gave me enough confidence to start looking for a better location, and like an actual shop. Luckily, I did not pull the trigger. I went down to actually Concord, where I was, where I am now. I picked Concord because I had driven a family friend down there before. I knew it was like car friendly. And when I was doing all that side work, my customers were coming from East Bay, South Bay, SF. Some in the North Bay where I was in Santa Rosa, but not as many as, the Bay Area. So I started looking in Concord. A shop space was $2,500 a month. I'm like, that's easy. That's one job on a car. Again, uneducated with business and what it actually took to open a shop. I think after about 6 months of working out of that, or not even that long, I think 4 months of the horse barn, and I went back to Concord. I found a real estate guy. I dressed very professionally. I had I think my logo already on like a polo shirt. I'm a decent, how do you say? I can sell myself when I'm trying to get a job. I could nail any interview. That was never an issue. So same thing with the real estate guy. I told him my plans. He said, I'll help you find a shop. It'll be easy enough. He ended up finding me a shop, a really nice one in Concord, North Concord, that was not meant to be automotive, but the owner of the building was an auto enthusiast. So that was my first kind of like networking in. Hey, this guy's into cars. He thinks what I'm doing is kind of cool, young. I'm trying to do something neat. He said, go for it. I got CC'd on the email, actually. He said, this kid seems put together, wants a shop, and is going to do car modifications. And the response was, go for it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was the owner. That was my first landlord. So,
hey, he gave you a shot, right?
Yeah, and he gave me a shot. I only actually met him one time. But yeah, he gave me my kind of first shot to get into a real professional shop. And that was huge. Wow. That was like ridiculous. Especially from a horse barn. That was a big change.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I what impresses me most now hearing that story was your ability just to kind of like go with the flow and just jump from thing to thing to thing. Yeah. And kind of like, what do you tell yourself when you're doing that? Because I think a lot of people get frozen, and I've been guilty of it too, frozen in fear of like, hey, what do I do next? Like maybe I'll just stay where I am, or I'll just like do the safe thing. Like, what do you tell yourself to have yourself hit those milestones of like horse barn, Costco parking lot, like get real place? Like,
what did I use? I had customers. This was kind of interesting when this car came out that I started to specialize in. It was two brands partnering together. Not many places wanted to work on it, and the people buying it were first time, sports car or modified car buyers. A lot of guys in tech, a lot of guys, getting their first like really decent jobs. They could buy a cool car. And surprisingly enough, and it's maybe weird to say this, a lot of kind of socially awkward people that this was their first way to get out, kind of going to car meets and modifying stuff. And those people then became so supportive because I became friendly with them. As I was going along doing this, I'm like, these people they want me to do well, clearly. And it's also, they were getting a pretty good deal at the time. I was really inexpensive. I didn't have a lot of overhead, so I kind of was what's something you shouldn't do a ton of, but basically underselling a lot of things to then get volume in business. And it worked decently well, and it was kind of the reputation. And I really enjoyed people saying like, oh, this is neat. This is like kind of a different experience. Working out of a horse barn, there's not a waiting room. So I was working on these people's cars and they're standing next to me half the time. Mechanics hate that normally. I got very used to it, and it was kind of my own way to test like my honesty, I guess, with people, or to show them if I screw up, you are right next to me. You'll know exactly what happened. We'll kind of go from there. And that got me a lot of amazing customers who then kind of supported me as things were coming along. So got the new shop, had a big meetup, everyone came out and like wanted to see the place and posted on the social media and the forums, and kind of like, the word of mouth was crazy. So that kept me going enough. It's just like, wow, other people want me to do this as much as I do, if not more. So that was a huge part of growing the business, is customers being stoked on it. Yeah.
So it sounds like that it was the support system of the customers of the car community, but really, I mean, honestly, you earned that, right? I mean, you earned the respect. So you let people scrutinize your work right in front. And
100%.
While you're trying to work on, I would imagine, a really expensive car, right?
It ranged, but it was anything. I mean, even it didn't have to be expensive. This was like these people's pride and joy, or like I said, their first like kind of made it car or something. So it was, people cared more about these cars than even the cars people drive every day to just A to B. This is a A to A car. You drive it because you enjoy it. So it was special to these people, and they could see that my cars were like that to me, which helped with the business a huge amount too. It's like, hey, you treat these like I do. That's what they enjoyed. So
I would love to understand, like, what is your philosophy when building a brand? It sounds like you've been very intentional in building a brand around quality customer service and just really doing things differently. First off, like, how do you do things different, or what need did you see within the space to do things differently? And then how have you intentionally built your brand around that ethos of quality customer service?
Trust is by far the biggest. And I think with any business, literally anything, trust is probably the main thing. You trust the product's going to be good. You trust the service they're going to provide is good. Mine is, a lot of people don't trust mechanics. That's just a given. And then there's a lot of good reasons they don't, dealerships and whatnot. So that was always my goal, is like, hey, be as honest or as hugely open about things as you can, and people will kind of catch on. And it worked, honestly. Not burning bridges is a huge thing as well, but straight up getting people to trust you by being probably kind of vulnerable is massive for building a brand.
What qualities do you think are vital for someone to have in order to start and build a brand and business?
The like cliche is grind, like work, works around.
Yeah. I use that word a lot.
To be fair, that's a huge part of it for sure. But it's I would say almost the opposite is figuring out and being able to turn it off and not, dude, I almost ended I'm now married, a long relationship from not being able to turn off, grinding.
I'm happy you mentioned this.
And it burns people the hell out. Yeah, it's because that's all kind of people talk about. So you just have to work really hard. Yeah, you have to also be very lucky. You have to have a lot of things fall into place. You have to have people supporting you. But man, to be able to go home and leave your work is one of the hardest things, if not the hardest thing about owning your own business. I mean, I can count the number of times I was in a fight with my now wife over responding to people late at night. And, access social media and access to people, after hours is so normal now. You think that's what you're supposed to be doing. Like, if I'm not answering these people, if I'm not doing emails all day long, I'm not actually running my business. That's bullshit. It's just that the access has gotten so easy. People assume that's what you're doing. I would get messages at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning from people. Instagram. How much for a supercharger install? I'm like, and they expect you to respond quickly, even though I'm thinking, okay, I'll read it and then I can go quote them at some other point. People expect you to respond right away. So if you can figure out how to turn off the grind, relax, not take your work home, you'll be hugely successful. It sounds stupid or kind of backwards to not be working extra hard, but holy crap, the amount of relaxation you have when you're not taking your work home will make you work a lot better when you actually are grinding.
Okay. Yeah. And you've covered a lot of the challenges of starting a business, but if you had to go back and give yourself advice, like your 21-year-old self advice, what advice would you give that person, especially when building that business, building that brand?
The biggest thing was to not like we talked about, not to get down on yourself when you don't feel like something is supposed to be working correctly. Even if you came out with an amazing app or product or something, the way there was gnarly for most. Like there's something, that the advice I would give if I was starting again is to realize that, is to like, hey, this is not overnight. It does happen for some people. Stop comparing yourself to people. That was a big thing, is comparing myself to other shops or businesses. It's a really bad way to go about your business, honestly. Yeah. And then the other biggest thing I learned, do not burn bridges. As easy as it can be. You'll meet a lot of shitty people in business, but you'll never know when you need like a certain person that you've worked with or a certain company. Okay. So being friendly, it sounds simple, but being friendly with everyone you can possibly meet and network with is humongous. It's I have gotten opportunities purely from being able to just chat somebody up and be like a nice guy to someone, or and then to not piss off another business or shop that I'm working with. It's like a lot of this stuff sounds straightforward, but you don't know it at the time. When you're doing this, it seems like you can do whatever you want, and it's not the case.
And that's great perspective, especially with just making quality relationships. Is there a story that comes to mind specifically when you think about that?
When I got fired, I got a text from the owner saying like, hey, I got fired, and then within that first week, I think like 6 appointments canceled. And he said, you signed a non-compete. You can't steal customers. I was pretty pissed off, and I didn't respond. I responded like in a kind of a snarky way, as a dumbass 21-year-old would do, but not in an aggressive tone or something. And it took a couple of years for us to like be back on a good page. But then we ended up sending each other business, and it worked out well enough where I wanted to just say fuck you, like I can do whatever the fuck I want to. And instead, I said, hey, these guys want to follow me. I didn't ask them to do it. I think it was very straightforward. Like they think I'm better, and that was huge, because that ended up coming full circle. And yeah, we had worked together now on quite a few different cars. Even a friend of mine still worked for the company. So that was pretty instrumental in a very small community of people. The car world, even the Bay Area, is a tiny group of people. Everybody knows everybody. It was very important not to piss people off if you can avoid it. It's hard in some industries, but it's probably one of the bigger things in business people forget. The most drama I've really had, I've dealt with by being as open as possible. So it's stuff that's come up either on social media or a forum, where people are talking, is to try and lay everything out and be honest. There's times where I wanted to say stuff, and there's times even where I said things where I fully regretted it. Yeah. But once once it's on the internet, it's there forever. So that was kind of the mindset I had too. Is type something up. I'm that person that will type something up, like a big rant, read it 10 times, and then delete it, and then write another one, and then it's a bad habit, but it's worked out in my favor. I haven't sent a lot of shit because I could have really said not great things. It's part of being a business owner. You're like, I got to actually be professional.
Like, can you talk about maybe it's experience, just like how you deal when someone is just like not liking your stuff, or just like, because that's your name on the line, right? And you gotta be able to handle that.
And it hurts.
I'm sure it does. Yeah. How do you handle that?
Yeah, I guess that's a tricky thing to think about too. Is at the time of something like that, if you got heavy criticism, like a bad review, you would go and respond as best you could. But people, you always have to assume, are talking shit, and you're just not going to hear about a lot of it. So ignoring it a lot of the time would help too. Yeah, I don't know. I'm fortunate to not have had a lot, at least to my face. So dealing with it has usually just been like keeping your head down.
No, I can really appreciate that. I guess the next question I'd ask you then is like, would it be hypothetically better if like you didn't own your own shop, you worked at some like place and like you didn't get any criticism?
It's yeah, I would say it's easier. And actually, the reviews that come into my general repair shop, they will occasionally name a specific employee. But I'm not working there as a tech. I'm actually like background doing, little stuff. I have a manager. So it is less critical feeling for sure when it's not directly against you. It's kind of like at the racer's line where I'm by myself in one shop. Yeah, you take that stuff because it's just me. It's just them.
Yeah.
The employees then at the same time, you don't want them to take that poorly. And I'll tell you, when we get a bad review or something, the whole company knows about it, and we still end up talking about it even if you don't want to, because you want to make sure like, hey, like it didn't make that guy feel like crap, or did we do the right thing? Did we respond the correct way or something?
Yeah.
And it's a way different dynamic, than feeling it like it's just against you and it's like a slight against you or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it sounds like what it sounds like though that you do is that you learn from it. You don't let it stop you. Right. It's like you don't.
No. I
let
just
it-
assume that people are dicks. That's in the simplest form. People are really mean, and they're mean online because they can
They can be. There's
hide
no
beside.
one-
I mean, it's and that's
funny.
just how it is. I've been mean online. It's easy to do. And that is a good way to look at it. Usually when I get something, I'm like, well, I talked to this customer in person. They were really happy with whatever we did, and we even like kind of shot the shit. I like to actually find out about my customers, and my manager's the same way. And when someone is like that to you, you think I did a good job. I took care of them, and then a bad review comes in, and you're like, wait, how weird that we were just really friendly in person, and you were unhappy with something, but you didn't feel comfortable enough to then tell me in person.
Yeah.
And so you tell me online, or complain online. Essentially, that can be really tricky for business too, because you can't combat a lot of that stuff. You can reply to it and hope that those people looking at how your business is doing will read kind of how you responded. And I even did that for shops I was going to go work for, or any business I was going to work for. I'd look at the reviews and see how they responded to the reviews, not so much what the reviews were.
Yeah, but the key takeaway, at least for me, there is like, hey, criticism is going to happen. Use it. Find a way to find a way to
Make
work
it a
through
strength,
it. Make
for
it
sure.
Make it a strength. I like that. One of the things one of the things I've noticed about you is you seem like you're very confident. You're very opinionated. Like, hey, I can do this. I believe. Which I noticed it because I feel like I kind of have some of that trait. I'm curious, how do you balance that with humility?
So I've always been, oddly enough, I've been able to talk to or relate to people, nearly anyone, since I was a kid. And I have no idea why. I would say maybe my parents or my dad is kind of that way. He's like very, like anyone you meet, you just assume I can find something that we could talk about or agree on, or, like I assume anyone I meet could be a friend or someone. And I approach my customers kind of like that, which can be tricky. They tell you not to, you don't want to be friends with customers essentially, but you want to be friendly with them. And being able to chat up anyone essentially and kind of find a way to make someone feel comfortable was like huge for my business. As I said, a lot of maybe socially awkward people got into, cars via a sports car that I work on. And I was able to use that to my advantage. Like, hey, this person's really shy coming to my business for the first time. And it's kind of intimidating to reach out to somebody for the first time. It's they're the only person at the business. You're going to have to face-to-face with them, figure out what you're doing, whatever service is being offered, and then maybe hang out or talk to them for 2-3 hours and hope it goes well. That's my usual strategy.
Okay, so
Get friendly with people.
Yeah, it sounds like be friendly, have the empathy to realize
Yeah.
that approaching someone like yourself to go and fix a specialized car is not always easy. Even a normal car is not always an easy thing, and just put yourself in the shoes.
And any unrelated to cars, but I have customers that are 18. I have customers 75 in between, and if you can find some common ground on it, people really respect and they kind of notice that.
Okay. Have empathy for your customers. I like it.
Yeah.
Curious, what's been, looking back on your journey to now, what's been your best decision ever, specifically within your career of working on cars and building your brand?
Best decision ever. obviously, other than I would say the obvious, starting the business is the best thing I ever did. Clearly, we're sitting here. Literally, best thing I ever did. Marry my wife.
I like that.
She's insanely supportive of this, even though she did not want me to start the shop.
Okay.
No, keeping biggest decision. Actually, no, that is kind of what we talk about. Is figuring out to separate the work and life balance was the biggest decision, honestly. Yeah. And it wasn't like a single decision. It did take a lot of work to get to that. But I guess the decision to make an effort to do that was huge, because it would have. I mean, I would work till 8, 9 o'clock every night from 12-hour days. It becomes so ridiculous and unhealthy. Yeah, for sure. That's at least the easiest big decision I ever made. Was to improve my mental health outside of my business. There's no bad answer, but that's a really good answer. I like. What have you done, or what activities do you do more from just when you have that time away from work? What do you do intentionally as activities to kind of fill because otherwise it could feel kind of unproductive or just I'm not doing anything. And as we discussed, actually, as much as I love cars and can talk about them, I try to find things that are unrelated to cars. I do that as well, of course. I go to the track. I was racing actually a bit this last year, which was a amazing experience. I try to spend a lot of time outside, even whether it's sitting in my backyard with my dogs or something, stuff when I'm stuck in a shop and thinking about is what I want to do when I'm at home. So that's actually relaxing and ignoring kind of business things is amazing. And outside of the business is kind of enjoying normal life. I didn't for a long time, and COVID has made that very weird as well. But being able to not work is enough of a break for me. I mountain bike. I don't know. How specific do you want to get?
No, it's cool. It's cool.
I smoke a shitload of weed.
That's an honest answer.
I mean, dude,
that's an honest answer.
That's keeps me happy and less stressed. And outside of that, I still do car stuff. I mountain bike. I enjoy food, dogs, simple shit.
Nice. Yeah. Keeping it simple. It sounds like there's a set group of activities that you do. Yeah. So I know it can be hard to tell yourself, "Hey, I'm not going to work. I'm going to go do something else." When you're so used to,
it's easy to work.
It's easy to work, which is it's hard weird, not to. But it's hard not to. Which you think would be the reverse, but
absolutely.
Yeah,
it's so simple to work. Actually, that's kind of the bad part. The divide is what takes so much effort, but. Obviously, you want to do well, so you're always thinking, "What's the next thing I can do? How can I do better?" It's like, well, no, relax. That's how you can do better. Honestly, relax.
which is wisdom it is wisdom. It's taken, at least in my experience, a while for me to learn.
Yeah, same. I always just
appreciate that you say that, because it's it's so true. Yeah. Okay, before we ask the final question, where can people learn more about you? Where can they learn about the Racers line? What's going on?
As you said, it was hard to find information on me.
I know you're a pretty private guy, so
no, it's not even that. I don't have, as much as I enjoy some aspects of even social media, I don't have time, or I don't put in the time to actively do that kind of thing. You can look up my businesses in my shop, I guess, if you wanted to. My performance shop, the Racers line, my general auto repair shop that I bought, I think it's been 10 months, is called Contra Costa Auto Service.
Okay.
That now has a team of 4 guys running it. I'm kind of in the background, but they are really people doing all the work, honestly. And they work on everything. It's an amazing shop. I even had them do stuff for me before I bought the place. That's awesome. That's my sell, is hey, I trust these guys. I bought them because I trusted them. And theracersline.com and concordautorepair.net.
Okay. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Final question. What advice would you have for someone that's on the other side of a challenging decision? Maybe they don't like their job and they want to start a business. Maybe they want to go start writing a blog, or just move across the country to get a fresh start. What advice would you give to them?
So, biggest thing that helped me was making a very good and not even very detailed list of what I wanted and what I was trying to do.
Interesting.
So, like I said, with ADD, even my daily, I actually make lists of a lot of things I need to get done, even just on paper, just to check stuff off, because otherwise it's insanely overwhelming. There's 1,000 things that you can think of throughout the day, and you might not get to all of them, but if at least it's on a list, you can kind of keep track of what the hell you need to do.
Yeah.
From the beginning, from starting a business in that aspect, setting goals, it's super cliche too, but it is for a reason. It works.
For focus,
it is to help you focus on what you actually want. You are going to doubt yourself the whole way, honestly. And that's where some of the stuff we talked about kind of comes in. Look at it as it's a long-term thing. It might happen very quickly. You might be successful, or your version of success very quickly, but understand that you're doing this because you want to do either something different than you're doing now. You want to improve some part of your life that you can't because of your current working, or you have a cool idea that you think the world should see. The motivation, at least, and what got me to do it might have been because it was a necessity at the time, but this has made me, of course, want to start other businesses and want to do more stuff. Meeting people like you and doing this sort of thing is almost motivation in itself to just go do it. There's enough resources that really anyone can start a business right now. California hates small businesses. As a whole, the United States is quite friendly to it. It's amazing that we live in a country that allows people to really start their own business, and it is the best thing I've ever done. It really is. So
that's awesome. Thank you for that. So it's know what success is for you, write your daily goals, daily checklists, and really just have that self-awareness of where you're going and what needs to get done.
Yeah, it seems simple, but it's the simple stuff. It kind of drives home, and it really ends up working well later on. So
awesome. Well, Neal, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Please apply what you've learned today. Take the lessons that you learned, use them so you can live your own version of inspired life. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.